Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today. It's my pleasure to get the opportunity to speak with Grandmaster Nigel Davies, as well as International Master Andrew Martin, and both of which I've enjoyed watching videos on ChessBase for years. These guys have created fantastic content. They're both wonderful chess players, and you can learn a lot from these guys. Such an honor to be on their show today. Myself, I come with a streaming background in chess, and I'm also a coach and player, but I am not titled. But it is great to see you guys. And Nigel Davies, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started with chess?
How I got started with chess? Well, I basically my father taught me the moves, right? But it was only the moves, and then I started just playing games and whatever, and I found that I was quite quick with it, and because I was winning some games, and I kept going, and then I kept going, and then we had the Fischer Spassky match, the first one, when I was, I think, 11, maybe 11. And I even studied the games with a schoolmate. This is what we did in those days. We got a little chess set out, and we got the newspaper, and we played through the moves and talked about it. And then the kids at the school I was going to, I went to secondary school, and the kids there introduced me to Southport Chess Club, where there were loads of chess players. This was in an old Victorian building in Southport, the Victoria Baths, which is now a leisure club, and it was full of, like, old guys, mainly from Eastern Europe, playing chess on wooden boards, and they put all the kids in a separate room because we were too noisy, right? But the junior, who was like the champion, got to play in the adult tournaments. So I won the junior section, then I went into the adult sections, won the third league, went up, won the second league, went up, and I think the first year I was in the first tournament, I was like second, and then I was playing elsewhere and whatever, and I read books and so forth and so on, and the rest is downhill, basically.
That's incredible.
So I was pretty much self-taught. I think Andrew was also self-taught, because that's what we did, and we taught ourselves from books and practical experience,
Wow.
and it was a disadvantage in some ways because I think neither of us acquired really good technique. I mean, say we had Adrian Michelchisin on a short time ago, and if we were fortunate enough to have a trainer of his caliber, I mean, I think it's probably fair to say we'd have both probably been much stronger at our peak. Well, I haven't reached my peak yet, but if I had him as a trainer, when I do reach my peak, I'd have been better.
Nice.
Oh. Well,
What
you
about
lost
you?
my words now.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
incredible. And I mean, the things that I've seen in your games and the play and the things you shared on ChessBase, it was really nice following along in those videos and stuff, and just trying to, at first just kind of emulating, making the same moves you made, and then over time actually trying to understand the ideas deeper. And of course, you gave some of that in the content that you shared as well. What do you maybe have, like a favorite game that you've played in chess, like a favorite game you'd like to share with us? Or
Well, I've got one. I'm not sure whether it's my favourite or not. It was quite, but there's a good talking point in this game, right? Which we will. Well, I better share the screen, don't I? Because you have no, hang on, that's the wrong screen share.
oh, wow.
Right, I need to share a different screen. That is just let me get this up. I've our pre.
I can display your game if you want to.
No, I've got it. It's right here. It's right here.
I've got a board handy. We'll just play it.
No, I've got it. Everything is under control.
Famous last words on this
There we
program.
go. Well,
Okay.
our show, I don't know about your show. Our show is basically, one disaster after another. you know, with us trying to sort of improvise our way through. But describes my chess basically as well. Anyway,
Jesus struggling with modern technology.
so this game was played in the last round of the Student Team Championships in Graz, 1980. 82, right? And I was, maybe it was 81. I must have been 81. Anyway, this tournament was this last round. We were playing against Yugoslavia, as it then was, and you know, we were playing our games. We were in the running for a medal, and it was kind of looking likely that we would get silver. And at one point, the captain wanted a package deal. Now, they used to do this at times, make all the games drawn. Now, the package deal was I think it was because Spielman on board one didn't like his position, right? And I did like my position, and there was also a chance I would get the gold medal for the board. I actually did get the gold medal for the board, mainly because Spielman's package deal was waved away, and and I won, and Plaskett won as well, and I think he won, and they also had to delay the prize giving because Plaskett was still playing, right? And he went on for like 10 hours or something, and it was absolute chaos. Anyway, at the prize giving, Kasparov, before he knew really good English, he spoke to me, and do you know what he said?
No. What did he say?
Okay. He said, "How many points you get?" And I told him 6.5 out of 8. And this is the game which helped me catapult myself towards this 6.5 out of 8.
Was that it? That's all he said to you?
Yeah. Now he would have more to say. Well, but he wouldn't speak to me. At the time, he was prepared to speak to me, but he couldn't say much. Anyway, here we go.
Wait, was that he couldn't Samish, or he couldn't say much? I couldn't tell what you said there.
Well, he didn't know much English, right?
Oh.
I think his English improved a lot later on.
I was trying to make a King's Indian joke with the Samish. I'm sorry, I just didn't come out right.
Plaskett told me about this tournament. He told me a joke about Kasparov. He said he'd never seen anybody with so much energy. Apparently, you were sharing accommodation or something, and he came down in the morning to have a wash in the bathroom or something. And Kasparov was cleaning his teeth. And he said he'd never seen anybody clean his teeth like that. He was trying to rip the teeth out of his mouth with his toothbrush, up and down like this. And he said, "Yeah, there's a future world champion there, Nobody else has got that type of energy." So, I don't know whether that's true or not, because Jim is prone to exaggeration, but I've got a feeling it probably is true, actually.
Well, there's probably an element of truth in it.
But, he said he'd never seen anybody clean their teeth like that. Normally, it's kind of, whatever you like, you normally do that. But he said he was trying to like that. He's in some sort of really foul mood.
I know fishermen exaggerate, but I didn't think chess players exaggerated. I thought we played it pretty much by the cuff, just like right there, exactly as it happened. All recorded in time for everyone to enjoy.
Well, after today, you'll have a different idea about that. So, anyway, I played G6, and why did I play G6? Because I always played G6
at that time.
At that time, right? I eventually got out of it. So he now played this: knight c3, d6, e4, and I played knight c6 because I always played knight c6. And this isn't a King's Indian. The King's Indians with knight f6, of course. I am threatening his pawn. Maybe d5 is the best move here, but he played this move. And now I went e5, d5, knight ce7.
Would I be right in thinking that your choices were influenced by a book by Keane and Botterill on the modern defence?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, this was recommended by them in that book, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that a lot of young players at that time, they found this defence. You just play like 1g6 against everything. I thought, oh, great, I don't have to study much theory.
Well, times were completely different.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have somebody you know, studying with a computer for half a day, trying to beat you in a modern defence, and you know, finding some way to get an edge, and you get no counter play, and you get ground down into the dust. And that's the actual fate of the modern defence player these days. In those days, it was actually quite exciting to play the modern defence because it was highly original.
Yeah.
You know,
Now it's all, you know, now they all go Bishop E3, don't they?
You get Tigers Modern, or, you know, whatever he wants to call it, some 300-page tome with 20 move-long variations. I mean, that's not what the modern was about, basically.
It's about being an individual. Anyway, he went G4, which is known to be a standard move. And the idea is to inhibit F5. Now, at some point, I had the bright idea, maybe not so bright, that black can play C5 in this position, reaching a kind of dodgy check Benoni, which Andrew did a DVD on.
I saw that.
Is that not your move, Nigel? That's an original move from you, isn't it?
C5. I don't know. It might be. Yeah, it might be.
I think it is. I think it is. I remember you showing me this game, and that struck me as a interesting move.
Yeah, there's a danger of white playing C5, and he could have done it on his last move. But anyway, white heads for a touchdown on the king side with H4 as well. And I played knight F6, attacking his pawn. Now the next move is kind of, you know, very risky indeed by white. He goes G5.
Did he not play F3?
Well, he should play F3. And then I would probably be reduced to playing H5.
And then push on knight H7.
And then, I don't know if I want to do, maybe I'd do knight H7 and then F6, but I might do, yeah, I've probably got to do knight H7 and F6. And it may not be very good, but at that time, then I thought, oh, this is really cool. I can play knight H7 and F6.
The problem with all these positions, that knight on E7, there's nowhere to get back into the game.
Exactly.
You play knight H7 and F6, but that knight on E7, if it sees the light of day, it's going to be very lucky.
But this game is not included for my opening play.
So this is a game where getting the knight to F4, having that possibility is what really gives it some spice for you. The idea that the dark square bishop might have to give itself as the better bishop in the position for the knight. Is that kind of what you're looking forward to, or?
Well, yeah, I was happy to get a piece active. You know, I mean, in the modern, if you ever get a piece over the third rank, you know, you're kind of chuffed.
Look at that knight on E7.
Yeah.
It's a crummy piece.
It never really gets into the game. Anyway, white played bishop F3 now. Now his idea is that after castle's knight G2, he was going to exchange off my only good piece. Right, but I was having none of it. And now I played this move, F5. And this starts the tactics, because if he takes this knight, I'm going to take back. And when he takes that, I'm going to take on E4. And lo and behold, he loses a piece.
Nice.
Right, so that is the first thing. So he went Queen D2. And he still wants to take that. And I replied with Queen A5. So now if he takes this, I'm going to take, bishop takes. I'm still going to take that. If he takes this with a knight, I'm going to trade the queens. I'm still going to win a piece. Like that. And if he takes it with the bishop.
Rook takes F4, right?
Yeah, I might play bishop takes C3 first.
Okay.
How I'm feeling about it, and takes their check, and I think he, yeah, I'm gonna get another pawn with check. Am I going to take that pawn with check, or am I going to go knight F5? I'm not sure, but it's, you know, it's good bit of fun. So after Queen A5, he played castle's queenside. So he still wants to take my knight on F4. This is where I sank into thought, right, for a very long time. And at the end of that thought, I went Rook B8. Right, now the idea, of course, is I want to go B5. Right. And the this becomes apparent in this variation, takes. And now I will take there. So still knight takes e4, I take on d2 check, win a piece. Right, when he takes with the bishop, I can take that actually first, takes. Then I'm going to take f4, he takes there, I take there, check. And when he goes bishop c2, I go bishop f5. Rook d2 or queen d2, I'm going to go check here and take that mate.
Nasty.
And if he goes king b1, I'm going to play pawn to b5.
And there's the rook b8 idea, huh? This
Yeah, that's
nice.
the rook b8
Nice.
to bring the rook into play. That's why it took me so much time. Nowadays, I wouldn't be able to work that out at all. But you know,
That's beautiful.
I cleaned my teeth with more energy in those days.
Just follow it through. Follow it through. Then queen takes d6.
Yeah, queen takes d6. I go then rook b6.
Yeah.
Yep.
And queen takes e7. B takes c4. Checkmate. So.
Oh yeah. So.
Yeah. So the guy played bishop takes d6 against me. I think this was around about the time that Spielman wanted his draw. And I played...
Not sure why, but I want to play rook f3 here.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why.
F3.
Okay.
And he played bishop takes b8. And now I played rook takes c3 check. Right, and this is where... Now if he plays... takes this, I take with the bishop, and then if he goes here, then I do
e3.
Yeah, I can do e3, or I can give him this check first
Okay.
and then do e3.
Or bishop f5 first, maybe, because if you do it right away, then they can block with e4. So maybe bishop to f5 right now is
Yeah,
better,
bishop
right?
f5. Yeah, bishop f5. Well, I can take e4 anyway. So
Oh, that's true, because the mate threat. Oh, yeah, that's
mate
nice.
yeah, so it's still okay.
Yeah.
So I took on c3 check. He played king b1, and he was in time trouble as well, so it was loads of fun for me. And then I played pawn to e3. And at this point there was, I think the arbiter decided, there were more moves played on the board than this, but the arbiter saw his flag fall. Now, if he was to take this, then I go bishop f5 check, king here, rook c2. And then when he takes that, I go bishop takes b2 check, king here, and then rook d2. My mate.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was
Well, pawn to e4 and then mate, but yeah, mate's there.
yeah,
I see
yeah,
what you're
and
saying.
then I take it, mate.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's me. And I think you wanted like some improvement tips, didn't you, or something?
When you offered with c5, the en-passant capture making d6 weak, were you concerned about that at all? If they weaken the d6 pawn?
No, because then I can get my if we go back here, if he takes that, I just take with a pawn, and there's much more likelihood I'm going to break out with d5 here
Okay.
than anything else happening. I can also develop my bishop to e6. You know, I mean, this is like a modern defense dream to have, you know, your pieces actually working. You know, normally we don't get this until like move 45, you know, in the time scramble.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah. Now I played the modern defense actually for years and years. It was only when I more or less stopped that I got the GM title, which
Wow.
probably says a lot. But I was I lived in the big tick up in my game probably came when I was living in Israel and hanging out with the Russians, right? Particularly Lev Sarkis and you know, so I was in like an all Russian team. So there was Sarkis on board one, then Smirin, then me, and then Libazon and Svidler. Not Peter Svidler, but Ilyahu Svidler. And so I was in like this all Russian 5-player team, and they would look at my modern defences, down their nose, and think, what is that rubbish?
What openings? What were some of the openings you switched to? So you mentioned maybe playing less cramped openings where you had these expansive things in later. But what would you switch to that helped you out with your game? Do you think?
Well, I played the Nimzo Indian, Queen's Indian or Bogo, and E4, E5.
And then with the Nimzo Indian selection that you made, if they played D4, C4, Knight F3, what selections were you doing then when you couldn't
Well,
play?
the Bogo or the Queen's
Bogo.
Indian.
Okay, nice. Okay.
And and it was at that point that I also, round about that point, I started studying endgames. Right, and it was kind of it was really the influence of the former Soviet players, that started me moving much more in that direction.
Nice.
And I became a much more sort of normal player rather than a sort of idiosyncratic 1G6 player.
When you were studying your end games, did you find like a particular book to be helpful, or were you using?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
anything that you can actually read, because so many of them I just found completely unreadable. And one of them, I don't know if I have it here, I have it to hand. How to Play the Chess Endings by Eugene Znosko-Borovsky. Right, which is, it's a pity he's not around now, because it'd be quite a match if he could play. Imagine the news coverage if it's Znosko-Borovsky against Nepomniachtchi.
Nice. One that I found a while back, and I heard about this in the Perpetual Chess podcast, is this Domination in 2,545 endgame studies. And this book made it feel more like I feel like I got more into like a math problem than chess. It felt like I was like doing pure math all of a sudden again from college. Like it was everything was like based on square control and no.
So it was How to Play the Chess Ending. The other one was Endgame Strategy by Shereshevsky.
Okay.
Which shows you centralizing the king, getting the bishop pair and stuff like that. That was very valuable. And I started preparing openings, like normal openings, not just E4, E5 and the Nimzo, but 1D4 with white. But so I just did all the things you're supposed to do, but this was the first time I'd really done them seriously.
Nice.
And that, and that is my top tip, by the way. If you're looking for improvement tips, study the endgame, echoing Adrian Michelchisin, right, and do it pretty seriously, because you almost can't go wrong with that. Right, a lot of people they study the wrong thing, and they don't get any better. Right, because there's if you study openings, then especially if you just memorize them, then it's not very helpful. Going through complete games of famous players, grandmasters, with their notes is very good. Do it with a chess set, and don't do too much 5-minute chess.
I totally agree. Yeah, and then also, like you were saying about the openings, it's also important to know the middle game strategies, right? Because if you memorize the opening moves and the middle game arrives and you have no idea what your middle game strategies are and some of the end games, like the pawn structures that'll show up and how to play those, then yeah, you can definitely find yourself in a lot of trouble. And what the computer finds to be in a better position for you, but if you don't know how to play it properly,
well, we didn't use computers. One of the things I did, and I could probably get like several books. This book that wouldn't show up because it's of the green screen. Is I went through all the books of great players, like all of Botvinnik's games, all of Capablanca's games, all of Laska's games, cover to cover, and I used like a guess the move approach. So I would cover up the one player's moves, and I'd try and guess their moves, and I'd write down my choice and then move on. Right, and if you do this with so many good players, Capablanca, Rubinstein, everybody, then you do get a broad sweep of chess plans and ideas.
Yeah, I've done that for years. That's how I got started in college. I would just pull out books for hours and just play through them and doing that exact thing. I'd take the favorite player of mine in the game. So if it was Tal, I'd play the game trying to play like him, right? So make my first move, compare it to their first move, make my second move, compare it to their second move. And the whole game kind of think about ideas. And it was funny because occasionally I'd argue with the grandmaster. I'd be like, no, you can't do, like in my head, you can't do that. And then I would see their move, and what it resulted in a few moves later, I was like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And that's where I think I got a lot of my strength from, was that idea of like seeing the better moves that they found, and understanding like some of these initial like set it up kind of moves that look innocuous. Bishop e7, you're like, bishop e7, why? And then a few moves later, you're like, oh my gosh, the bishop with activity on both sides of the board, able to make this killer, penetration or something. That was really cool.
Yeah, but what all this stuff does is it fosters thinking and reflection on the moves. It makes you think. Right, it's not sort of repeating moves, which some modern improvement stuff seems to be about. You've got to sort of pause and take and think about it and reflect on why somebody did something. So yeah, should we move on to Andrew?
I think so. Yeah, we've got international master Andrew Martin with you, and he's been being pretty quiet, which from the little bit I know of him so far was probably a little bit hard. So,
well, I was just reflecting on that, being a member of a book, a group in Facebook called Chess Book Collectors, and every day you see these guys taking snapshots of their collection, and they've, the number of people with astonishingly good collections of books, it's quite amazing to me. And I just think, are you actually reading these books? Because then they're not going to make master. They're not going to get to a high level. What's happening? Are they enjoying actually collecting the books and not reading them? I'm baffled by that. If they read just half of what's in their collection, they should be master levels players. But
depends how you read it as well.
They have to sign up for tournaments too, though. It's not just reading the books; they have to go and play.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's also true. But I did actually wonder about these huge book collections, whether they actually get read. But there you go.
Maybe it's like a cat picture thing, that they collect chess books so they can post pictures of the books on Facebook.
There you go.
I mean, I think there's no doubt about the fact that the overall standard of play has improved dramatically, and it really is just a question of what actually is causing that. I mean, as Nigel says, when we were developing as chess players, we were doing it on our own. I mean, the entire virtual generation of English chess players around that time, or Welsh chess players, or whatever Nigel nationality is at the time.
Citizen of the world.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Then. Fair enough. We were actually studying on our own. It was a combination of playing in tournaments, analysing the games with your friends and peers, and also studying at home on your own.
Yeah.
And
here's the book. 460 games. I went through this book 3 times.
Zoom
001.
Right.
It's notes by Bent Larson, dealing exclusively with Catalan structures, is to foster pattern recognition. So I didn't take a picture of it for Facebook. We've got a picture of it now on our video, but I went through it 3 times.
I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that the study possibilities are much greater today than they ever were, whatever you might think about pattern recognition repetition, which is what some companies are advocating. And also the opportunity to play 24 hours a day. This is what the difference is between our generation and the current generation. They can just play anytime against good opponents anywhere, on the internet. And this makes a hell of a difference. I don't know what you feel about that, Jacob.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And it's also, I mean, they put computer analysis for free on these websites. So as soon as you finish a game, whether it's chess.com or Lichess, you can go back over the game and have somebody right there showing you improvements in the game. So if you're wondering about like what could I have done better in the opening, or what was an idea to save it later on, you can actually see a computer or right there kind of showing you some of those lines that you missed. Which I think helps. And then the YouTube content, we have like Naro Ditsky has a wonderful YouTube series out there. Bartholomew, John, he's out there giving. And so you have these people like vocally explaining positions to people. And the wealth of that information, and the fact that it's in many cases free and accessible, it just makes so a lot more people can really take in a lot more knowledge about chess. And like you said, the strength of players to play against going up is going to help out as well.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, if you compare a 2200 rated player from our era, let's say transpose them back 40 years and compare it with a 2200 player of today, I think you're going to find that the player of today is much, much stronger and more difficult to beat, more resilient. They know more theory. They know more about middle games. They know more about end games. And it really is getting tougher.
Hmm.
And that I would say is the major difference. I mean, we had to do it the slow way because, as Nigel says, there was absolutely no other option.
Yeah. And I think that's what made like Tal and I mean Gary Kasparov was around when the computers were starting to get bigger, but Tal, Kasparov, some of these earlier players, it made them special. The fact they had to do that work that you're talking about, and they couldn't just have a team of analysts plus the engine plus the computer really giving, because the difference is if you go to a tournament thinking it's good, you don't know, right? But when you actually get the computers that are solving these things, now you know. So you no longer have that element of like risk with it or the what's your analysis, you know what I mean? Like you had to really earn it back then, I guess. So I have a lot of respect for Fischer and Kasparov. And then as we get newer players, and I love Carlson, the guy's amazing, don't get me wrong. But as we get newer players that have access to all these tools, somehow it cheapens it for me. It's not the rich thing it was. Somehow they have additional things that can be aiding in their expertise or what looks like a wonderful game. And so to me, I'm kind of saddened by the engine existing because I like the more purist chess of like trying to find it for yourself and having those arguments over whether or not you're better. But now we can actually objectively click a button and say, well, no, you weren't better. You know what I mean? And I think it changes things a lot.
I know exactly what you mean. It's changed the whole dynamic of the game. And whereas I would say maybe even just 30 years ago, chess had a kind of exclusive element to it. It was the number one game, number one in terms of everything, art, science. Nowadays, I think we're in danger of losing all that because there's simply so much chess available. It's saturation point, and it is a danger to the game. It is a danger because if you just look at what's happened over the last 30 years, you know, correspondence chess, I mean, you can forget about that now. That's dead. That's just engine beat engine. You've got the World Championship match. I mean, back in the days of Fischer-Spassky, Kasparov, Karpov, up to, say, the year 2000, the World Championship match was really something that we look forward to. And now, well, the last one was a bit of an enigma for me. I didn't understand it. But previous to that, we've had a series of very boring World Championship matches where nobody can win. You know, everybody's battling against the computer. And classical chess in general. I mean, what price classical chess in general? People are so obsessed with blitz and quick play and, you know, the whole chess world's speeding up. I just wonder where it's all going to end.
I don't know. I still have faith that it'll stick around. I think people will still have to do the work to earn it, especially in the over the board, the way we traditionally have done those tournaments, they'll stay that way. And then that'll encourage people to keep taking the time and studying and making slower moves and having those, I mean, those games are a completely different beast. Anyone who's played a tournament game versus an online game, it's a completely different thing. You can't really compare the two, you know? And I think the appetite for those types of games, the appetite for playing best chess and really good chess and not winning on cheap tricks that you do in blitz. I think that's going to keep the game pretty rich for a long time. And then, you know, we have lifespans, like these people that are gaining this knowledge, they won't be around forever. So the next generation comes in and they've got to reacquire that skill and knowledge, which should limit the amount of people that have it. Even with all the tools I talked about, it's still really hard to harness all of that, harness the end game, the middle game, the openings, all the nuances of chess, understanding the evaluation of the pieces changing based on squares and, you know, and those special pawn breaks and when to do that stuff. I mean, it's a very rich game. I don't see this game going away. And it's a game that will challenge people and challenge their, you know, their strategy abilities and stuff for years and years and years. I don't see that changing. It will get harder to play, but I think it'll also make it more fun in a way, make it more richness to the game.
Oh, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Well, shall I show you a game?
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm not sure if you shared exactly how you got into chess, but if you want to give us a little bit of your background on how you got started, that'd be nice as well.
Well, I think I was similar to Nigel in that I was taught by my dad, and we just played. He was my only opponent, and that was it. We played when I was 6 years old till I was about 9, and then there was no chess at all. Apart from that, I took up chess in secondary school, a grammar school, and the maths teacher was my inspiration, and I became good very quickly. And I was lucky to have the support of my local chess club, which was East Ham Chess Club, and it developed from there. But I wouldn't say I had any enormous amount of parental support apart from just playing games against my father. So it was very much like Nigel, you know, coming up as an individual, and had to do everything on your own.
Andrew, do you remember the 1975 Enfield Open?
Yes, I do.
Right.
Ed Larson was a commentator with Leonard Barden.
Yeah. Well, that's actually the event where we met.
Right.
Right. And I was at the scoreboard. I don't know if you remember this, right? And I was looking at the scores, and this guy A. Martin seemed to be doing quite well. So you know, I sort of looked round, and you were looking at the scoreboard too. And I said, "Do you know who this A. Martin is?" And you said, "He's an absolute patzer." Right. I've always remembered that. That's how we met.
Well, at least I told the truth, yeah, I mean, my chess development had significant gaps, I would say. I mean, I was very good at some things and not so good at others. And as Nigel said, it would have really helped to have some coaching support from a much stronger player at that time. But again, there was very little coaching. I mean, as you said, Jacob, I think one of the main things about the current generation of chess players is they're so well cared for by the internet and by coaches worldwide. I mean, they're getting exposure to top advice all day whenever they want it, aren't they?
Yeah. And, you know, like when I watched your videos on ChessBase, like some of them, like the Slav was one of them that I really enjoyed. And you had that special, like, you just showed A6. You're like, in this position, you can just play A6. And I've used that line a lot. And then you had this rook to B7 move. I've still tried to figure out how to win with that. You show that if the queen goes to B3 after the bishop's left to F5, you can play rook A7, I think, to hold the B7 pawn. But the rook seems like it's inactive to me. But anyway, you gave me such good insights for my games, and I've used a lot of lines that I've learned from you in my play online to achieve like a 2,300 plus blitz and like a lot of good ratings, right? Partly due to the things you showed. And it's interesting how just like these little subtle moves in the opening, the innocuous moves that just control a square, can really change the outcome of the game. Just the fact that you like deny an access to a square for your opponent. You know, if they have, and I talk about that on my stream a lot. The idea of like you have knight, bishop both looking for a square out of the opening. Maybe you take that square away as like a general way for maybe a beginner or lower rated player to get started. Just trying to dissuade their pieces from coming too close to your camp, I guess. But and your check Benoni was neat too. That one was pretty intense. Like it was, I was having a hard time. Like, and I got nervous about the en passant captures there too. That's part of I brought that up today with Nigel. But it just seemed like there were multiple games where I didn't get in the D5 push, right? And then my D6 pawn was weak, and I'm playing moves like knight back to E8 or some other sad move, trying to not understand I needed D5 there. So, but yeah, it's really been nice talking to you guys, and I just love learning about chess. And you two are two of the better players and teachers of the game as well. So I feel very fortunate to be here with you guys today as someone I played chess when I was 4 years old until now I'm almost 43. And all those years I've just played chess and learned chess, but you guys and especially Martin, I guess, especially I kind of felt like I, similar to Jakob Urgaard, I kind of bonded with both you through these videos, where I just really felt like you were right there talking with me. And I liked that a lot.
Well, that's like it. Whenever I make a video, I try to put myself into the listener's mind. What do they want to hear and what are they looking for?
Yeah.
And, I think that is how I see the making of a good DVD.
Oh yeah. I feel like I've known you for years and we've never talked till today. I mean, I feel like I've just from the video, it felt like I really had that like connection with you just from the way you talked to me in the series. Like it's, you do a wonderful job engaging the person that's learning from you, where they feel like you are just that trainer right there with them, guiding them along through the opening or things that you're describing. So thank you for that.
Let me show you a game because we're going to run out of time in this.
I just want to ask Jacob a quick question. After you went through the Czech Benoni DVD, did you have the words blocked positions ringing in your ears? Because that was my experience.
It was a while ago.
I don't know how many times Andrew said that, but it was a lot. Right, but I learned the Czech Benoni from Andrew basically.
What's the
going
position
through his DVD?
I kept thinking in my head, I'm like, I felt like Rain Man. I'm like, if the knight goes to E2, if the knight goes to E2, what do I do? Knight to E2. Oh, knight's on F3. Knight on F3 is a different one. What's knight F3? It's like I was just trying to remember what he'd show me in the videos. It was it was a challenging opening to play. I'll put it that way. A lot of nuance.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you a game which I played in 1990 at the Lloyds Bank Open, which was one of the big tournaments in England at that time. We had Lloyds Bank. They sponsored a series of tournaments, which were, massive for English chess, massive for British chess. They ran alongside the British Championship. The British Championship came first in August, then came the Lloyds Bank Masters. And my opponent is Ian Rogers, Grandmaster from Australia. And he was pretty strong around that time. And it's interesting because it features the old Indian defense, which might not be especially fashionable, but I have achieved incredibly good results with it. For most people, it's passive, but it suits my counter-attacking nature. And I must have played this defense, 20 or 30 times. I always reserved it for really strong players, because I found that a lot of them were quite unfamiliar with it, to the extent that they probably get into trouble even in the opening. Now, this is already a position where White's got to make a big choice. Should he play E4, which is what Rogers did, or should he just go Bishop G5? I mean, I've got a liking for Bishop G5 in this position, but I had one game against Jim Plaskett where I think I went here, and then I think this happened, and then something like that. Can that be right in this position? I don't think not quite. Some idea with knight H5 equalised the game. Now, how can that possibly be?
Yeah, I was trying to put the pawn on G6 to support the knight. I'm not sure if knight takes E5 is possible with the queen X-raying the knight on H5 or not.
That's right. It might have been queen C2 here. And then this does work.
Mm-hmm.
And this variation is supposed to be quite dangerous for White, but I think if Black times this move H6 and knight H5 properly, then it's okay.
You can also go C6 instead of bishop bishop E7.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you delay E5, then
here, you mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, not here. I mean, you delay E5 altogether and you play C6 and knight D7. And then when White goes bishop G5 later, you're able to go H6, bishop H4, G5, bishop G3, knight H5. So it would be something like you would be able to do that. After C4, you might have to do that. Knight C3, C6, D4, knight BD7.
Yeah.
E4. Sorry, now if bishop G5, then you can do this.
Yes. That's kind of anti bishop G5 move order.
Yeah.
It all depends whether you like these positions or not.
It's amazing playing people on Lee chess now. It's amazing the number of players that'll play H3 with that before the bishop comes out, just to prepare a square for it. Like a lot of people now are aware of those kind of ideas with knight versus bishop, and they'll ahead of time just have like the H3 move on the board just to let the bishop tuck away. Definitely seen that a lot.
Well, anyway, Rogers played E4, which is the main line, and then I was able to set up my favourite formation at that time, which was with C6 and then A6. Again, might not look like much, but Black wants to play B5 and gain a bit of space. And although White's setting up what looks like a nice position, again, I would say it's not that easy to play. My practice showed me that, I beat a lot of strong players with this system, that it's kind of not that easy to play for White past a certain point. Will he allow me to play B5? I mean, I don't think playing A4 in this position has a great deal of merit, because probably Black should just take this pawn and go bishop F8 and then put his knight on C5, A5, knight C5. and white's queenside looks somewhat weakened. So Rogers decided on a more restrained approach and just played h3, allowing b5, and then just a3. And I suppose white's just relying on this advantage in space to give him some sort of edge as he enters the middle game, because he certainly hasn't refuted black's opening. So bishop b7, bishop f1, both sides are kind of just treading water. And now I actually did something. I took the pawn and went bishop f8. Well, it's a difficult position. You know, all the pieces are on the board, and really white has to demonstrate, you know, why he's actually better. Black's got some definite ideas in this position. c5 is one, knight e5 is another, queen b8 is a third, which I think I actually play after bishop g5. Peculiar looking move, but if the position opens up, the queen can often be very well placed on b8 suddenly, with perhaps supporting the move b4. So he keeps centralizing the pieces. I nudge his bishop to h4. And now queen to a7. I mean, I don't know what you think about this, Jacob. For me, it strikes me as just a complicated game.
What I'm taking from it right now is when I look at my center pawn loss, my worst piece that I move is the queen. I'm not making good decisions with her compared to other pieces. So I've been trying to improve my movement of my queen in positions like this. And I'm watching this game more or less learning a new plan with the queen that I haven't tried before. I played the positions that are very similar to this a lot, actually, but I haven't tried this queen b8, queen a7 idea. But I like that you're getting on the diagonal of the white king. And I enjoy the fact that you're like hitting a lot of squares that don't currently have control from white. And also that bishop moving to the H file means that your queen will have a very nice use of that diagonal until a move like f3. But if they play f3, that's going to give a lot of weak squares around the king. So I like your move a lot.
Well, what I actually found was when I played the old Indian against really strong players, they used to consume oceans of time just trying to work out exactly what to do. And you'll never guess where the black queen ends up in this game, but it is quite amusing to see where it ends up as opposed to where it is now. So Rogers plonked his knight in. I mean, I think that's a good move. I played rook e6 to defend the pawn, and now he played b4. He probably thought to himself, well, I'm a bit better here. You know, I don't really know what's going on. It's very complicated, but I'm a bit better. I mean, I'm not sure that's correct, because white is also, I mean, which pawn is weaker, the pawn on e4 or the pawn on d6? It's not an easy question to answer. It's just a very complicated position. Well, he brought his knight back, probably wanting to target that pawn on d6. I played the rook to c8, which is a strange looking move, but it's to make room for the bishop to drop back. Queen to b3, and now, because his knight's so remote on a5, I managed to double rooks. And now we see the difficulty for white. You know, the pawn on e4 is also a target for black's pieces. Mm-hmm. So it really is a very complex position.
Yeah, that rook a8 to c8, those are the kind of things like if I'm teaching a student or talking to them, those are the kind of moves I like to get them thinking about, is like, you know, the idea of trying to preserve the bishops and seeing that knight coming to a5 and having that idea of creating the square, right? I mean, it looked like a simple move when you played it, but it's a big deal to the game because your potential energy in the game and your pressure on e4 is it's accelerated by the fact this bishop's still around. So it's a nice maneuver you did there to get your rooks doubled and still preserve the bishop.
Well, I mean, in I guess the next move competition, I very much doubt an audience would be able to guess what Rogers did. He played king f1.
So he's trying to get the bishop back to f2, maybe? Is that? I mean, I can't think of why else you do that other than
protecting the rook on e1. But I wanted to ask you, Andrew, do you think knight a5 was a mistake, given that the bishop had a square at that time already?
Well, as I say,
it looks offside after knight a5, bishop a8.
I think the
knight is on a5.
The knight needs to stay in touch with the centre, I think.
Yeah.
Having said that, what should he play? You know, this is the question. You know, c5 could be coming for black, and black's starting to get active. It's a really complex position. And it just shows you that, you know, they could even fox grandmasters. Yeah, so king f1, he wants to play f3 and bishop f2.
He wants to avoid D5 tricks later on after BC and D5.
Well, they were very much in my mind. Very much in my mind. The taking on C4 and going D5. So bishop G7 first, activating the bishop. This could now be, of course, a King's Indian, couldn't it? He goes F3, Knight H5. Now I start to like Black's position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the squares you have, and the knight coming to E5 maybe eventually. This is nice. I like this a lot. For Black, I mean.
You will like what happened, I can tell you that. Because, okay, he comes back to defend the kingside dark squares. In comes the knight. And now we get this sequence where, bang, I get D5 in. And that, the bishop on A8 might look like nothing, but it could easily come to life. Not at all an easy position for either colour. So he played Queen C5, wants to get the queens off. I'm not interested. Knight to D4. I'm even willing to sacrifice my fianchetto bishop to get this move C5 in. So there we have it. And this now we come to a really quite interesting position in the game. Because I remember he was getting short of time. And the last thing you want when you're getting short of time is the position opening up in your face like this. So he played B takes C5. Now let's have a look at the other move. Queen takes C5. Now on that, I was going to take on E4. Probably gets rid of his bad bishop this way. So we're going to have some exchanges. But I don't play Rook takes E4 now. I go Queen F4 check. I think this probably was the move he was afraid of.
Oh, yeah.
And if he goes Queen F2, we take on E4 here. And suddenly Black is, I think, doing very well because he can't play Rook E1 here because of check, King G1, take on E1, and then Queen takes A3. I'm not saying that's easy to win, but a pawn is a pawn, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, going back, you can see how complicated the position is. You have to see quite a bit to be able to play all this stuff. So he took with the pawn, takes, and now another interesting position here. I was looking at this game with a computer, and I thought, well, what about that? And it turns out that actually this is the amazing reply. And not only that, if he takes on E6, the computer showing me that I should take with a pawn. And we get an incredible position where he goes bishop F2 and I go Queen H2 and he goes bishop G1 and I go Queen H1. And something similar happens in the game. But now Black has got numerous threats in this position. And if one of them is simply Rook F8 check. And suddenly Black is winning. The computer actually thinks that Black is better in this position, whatever White plays. That came as a bit of a shock to me, I must admit. But in the game, I could remember, it's difficult to comment, intelligently on this game because it is so complicated. But he took with a pawn on C5, take on E4, yeah. And now this G5, bishop goes back to F2. And now I get this queen idea again where I bury my own queen on H1. But I have a few threats.
Rook F6 based on what you just showed us.
Absolutely. And then what does White play? So from now on, it actually turns into a one-sided game where Black is really doing rather well. And as you can see, the queen on H1 is amazingly influential. He's got to run for the hills. And he did actually run for the hills, but without much success.
Yeah, and that knight coming to F4 looming is just killing me. Like as someone that likes to play and defend positions, that knight coming in is just killer.
Up he comes. And now I played Rook takes E1, but apparently what I should do, again, the machine is showing me this. I did something similar in the game, but I should do this now. With the astonishing variation, takes. And if C6, we have check, King C5 check. Takes check. Listen, I really find
It's
this
also natural, right? I
very
mean,
pleasant. I find this extremely pleasant.
it was right there.
Yeah, what a
Oh
very
my.
look at these bishops. Crazy.
Somebody finds that on me in a classical game on lead chess, and yeah, report it.
Yeah. Check out his wig first.
Bishop D5 check the shocker. That was awesome.
It is incredible, isn't it? It is incredible. Anyway, the
Oh,
point is,
my.
what I did was actually pretty good. I mean, I played rook takes e1, rook takes e1, and now bishop d5 check.
Which I think is the more human playable way to do it. That way, that sequence seems much more natural to me. With the rook no longer enjoying protection, it seems like it's easier visually as a human to see it that way.
Well, it ended up getting mated in a different way. He tried to do a runner here, but there's no running from this attack. And now the queen takes h3, and he's kind of helpless here. So he went e takes d5, wanting to end it all. Who can blame him? And that was the last move of the game. Because if king takes, queen takes.
Wow.
Checkmate on the a file instead.
That's a beautiful game, Andrew. That's when I could play back through several times. There's so many. So I played chess for many, many years. And one thing I like to look for is like different types of attacks and using different ways of making the pieces coordinate well together. Like I looked at your pieces at first and I couldn't see that coordination and how it was going to happen to be so painful. And especially like the queen to h1, you don't at first realize how almost like paralyzing that is because of a rook making it to the f file. You know what I mean? Like that was really instructive and neat the way you played that. Like that was cool.
Well, I think what it shows is that actually I have played some incredible games in my chess career, but I've also laced that with a whole lot of horrible games. And I'm like a sort of player who needs some sort of inspiration. If I get inspiration, then I can beat anybody. But a lot of the time, I don't feel that inspiration and don't play so well. So very erratic. I mean, that's the main problem with my chess over the years. It's been very, very erratic. And
well, I think
that more or less sums it up.
You're a really strong player. And I got to think when you had games where you lost, I just have to believe that you saw something that maybe wasn't there. Like you saw a path and then and it happens in chess. I think we all encounter that where we think we see a path and then some intermediate move or something kind of catches us off guard. And that's my guess with you because your play's outstanding. And, you know, from the things I learned from you and stuff, I guess I'm just a huge fan of yours. It's hard for me to believe that it was you. You know, it's like it had to be something that maybe they did that kind of caught you off guard based on a weird capture or a check or so, you know what I mean? Like,
Honestly,
you're very strong.
I think, Jacob, it's my personality. You know, my personality is, I would say it's not 100% stable. You know, it takes a bit of. On my day, I should be absolutely amazing. You know, beat anybody, but it can also play absolute rubbish. So, if you ask me to choose a game which is typical of the good days, this would be quite a good game because, of course, it was against a really strong player. So I get the opportunity to show it. That was good.
I already hate White's position at this point because he can't get his pieces coordinated.
Well, you think it's the fault of that knight? You think it's the fault of the knight?
Yeah, partly the fault of the knight, but also his bishop in conjunction with h3. Right, so h3, I know it's not a dubious move, but the way with the bishop on h4, then h3 doesn't look very nice to me.
I mean, don't forget, it was played all the way back here.
Yeah, I know.
Like, right, you know, there.
I mean, I've been interested in the old Indian recently. Actually, I will say
honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
And I'd say in the last like 10 minutes or so, I've come to really enjoy it.
You should check out two things. You should check out a Foxy Openings video that I produced on it, showing all my games of the old Indian, good and bad. If you can get it, is a good thing to get. And
That's
secondly, there was a book by Junior Tay called.
Oh yeah, I saw that. He likes the Queen E8 and Bishop D8 maneuver.
Published by Everyman Chess.
Yeah.
Definitely get hold of that because it's an excellent book as well.
Yeah,
so
I've got his book.
That might be enough to learn the old Indian.
Yeah. There's also Bent Larson's Solida Abninger, right, which is Solid Openings, a little booklet he produced.
It might not be in English, that's the problem.
Oh, right. It's in Danish. So that might be a slight problem. But you can understand more or less what I mean. English and Danish, they're not that different. Solida is solid. Abninger, openings. There you go. Older is old. Indiana is Indian.
I have to say, Abninger sounds nothing like openings to me, but there you go. Each their own.
Well, this has been a real pleasure for me. I've enjoyed meeting both of you, and these games were fantastic. And I hope I get more time with you guys in the future. Either watching your show on Twitch, just kind of chatting with you, or getting the opportunity to have more time to talk with you. Like, this was really cool too.
Well, tell you what, if you can recommend our show in your Twitch shows, then that would be good. That would be good.
I can do that.
Then maybe we could come on your show and talk to you.
I'm 7 days a week. I'm on every single day. So you're
7 days a week.
Wow.
We can't match that. We can't match that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, thanks very much for coming on our show and running it for us. It makes a pleasant change.
So, how many hours do you spend a week on Twitch? How many hours?
Yeah, we can do that. I can't send the link. Let me subscribe real quick. If I subscribe, then I can send the link.
How many hours do you spend on Twitch a week then? Roughly?
I'm putting in about a little bit over 30 a week, as I'm trying to do. So
wow, that's fantastic. Right.
Jacob, would you send me a picture and any details about yourself that can go in our guest page? And you can find our guest pages on masterchesswebshow.com. I'll show you where it is actually.
I'm trying to. I think I just gifted a sub. I'm trying to subscribe. I'm failing over here. All I need to do is sub, and I can share stuff. Okay.
Right, here we go. I just
there we go.
Right. So we have a guest page.
I can't gift it to myself.
Okay. Although we were the guest, really, we'll put you on anyway. And we have an illustrious gallery here. We've got Adrian Michelchissin, Charlie Story, and Malcolm Payne. We're looking to add to these, and each one has got a picture. Right,
okay.
So we've got a picture and then just a very brief thing, and if you want a contact form up there as well.
He's got good chess-based stuff too. I watched this. I love the way he says "pound." The power of the pound. Like I love that.
Well, that's how it's pronounced. It is pound.
I just love that so much.
Certainly not the power of the pound, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I did subscribe. Okay, good. So I can share a link. All right, hold on.
Yeah.
But yeah, wonderful to meet you guys, and hopefully a lot more to see from both of you and games in the future as well. Do you guys play live on stream as well, or no? Verify account.
No.
No, we don't.
Well, I don't.
Verify my account.
I think Andrew plays a bit online, but I don't do it at all.
I don't play live stream. I'm too old and knackered.
Get the violins out.
Getting flagged by some 12-year-old is not my idea.
Oh my gosh. This keeps getting harder and harder here.
Yeah.
Pulling out password stuff. Okay, so we need there it is.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should wrap it up, Nigel.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks very much, Jacob, again, and we will be in contact.
No problem.
Great to meet you. And,
wonderful to be here. So nice. I'm just trying to. Of course, Twitch has me doing like all this two-factor authentication just to do this link.
No, don't worry about it now. We'll just wind up the show.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Nice to meet you. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.